Buy super cute detailed dies like these, and then, like me, remember that actually you're a lazy crafter and don't like cutting and gluing all those teeny tiny little pieces. Hi, I'm Jess from JessCrafts.com, and I'm here to help you make the most of your crafty supplies and time. So let's talk about how we can make these complicated dies just a little bit easier and save you time while enjoying them. Every time I see these cute dies like this, I'm so tempted to buy them, and then, as I mentioned, I just realized that it's hard for me. I don't use them as much as I would like to. And so I've come up with some different ways over the years that I kind of make it a little bit easier for myself, and then I wanted to gather them all into a PDF and a video for you. So you can get this for free at the link in the video description, and then it will have all of my tips listed, because I know some people like to just see the tips. So I'm going to show you using two different sets of dies. These are some witches from scrapbook.com, and then these are the dancing deer from Spellbinders Paper Arts. And I thought it's helpful to see two examples so that you can see that the tips can work from more than just one particular die set. My first tip is to make multiples, because you're going to reduce the time per finished product if you're going to make more than one. Every one of these tips kind of compounds across several of them. So my number two tip is, are there any dies that I can eliminate? I ask myself this question to think about how I can save time by running things through the die cut machine multiple times. So if I can just say, hey, I don't even need to die cut this thing. So on this little witch girl, she has these little teeny tiny white gloves. I can just draw those on. She has her little stocking detail. I drew that on. There's a bow. I instead just added some lines, or you could simply eliminate it all together. Another thing about this particular one is her eyes and mouth are actually teeny tiny die cuts. I didn't even, on my example where I tried to stick closer to the actual example, I didn't even cut them because they're just so small. I just drew that on. So I know sometimes drawing on details can feel intimidating, but even something simple like dots for eyes or just coloring. Because I know, for example, that if you get a little bit intimidated by drawing something on, but here, like for the reindeer, instead of cutting out his hands, you could just color that same area black. That doesn't really require any skill, except for to maybe draw a straight line across where you want the top of the hoof to be. Here, there's a little red nose. That die is actually attached to a candy cane accessory, and I don't always want to be putting the accessory with him. So by putting a little enamel dot with a pop of color from scrapbooks.com or a gem or something like that, I can save myself time and a pass through the die cutting machine. Tip number 3 would be to group your dies together. So for the deer, I put all of the pieces that need to be in the dark brown or the brown color to be together, and then the pieces that I could cut out of the white or like ivory color together. I actually also included, and this will come up in another tip, the scarf, because I am going to just cut that out of the white color since I do have a white. And then here's like all the black pieces or all the brown pieces for the witch. And then by taping them together, when I pull it off of the cardstock and then I go to put it on the next piece, they're all attached as one, and so I can use it instead of being multiples as one die. I will say a lot of companies do try to think of things like this, and will sometimes, like the two arms for the deer are already attached so that they you don't have to do that. I like when companies do small things like that. It doesn't always 100% work out because, like I mentioned, the little nose is attached to the candy cane, and there are times when I want the nose and not the candy cane, and then I'm forced to cut both or do something else or like try to hang it off the edge. You know, but most of the time it's actually really helpful. Tip number 4 is to use less colors. So in this example of the witch, they have gray for her bow, this like peachy pink, and then the orange, and I just made a lot of those things the same color. So like even in this more complicated version of it, I just made them all red instead of being different colors. So I always try to think, is there like any way that I can get away with less colors around accessories? But beyond that also, like here on the deer, he would look really cute with the little pink ears. And you could totally die cut them, because when you die cut the top of the head, you could also cut it with pink, and then you'd get little pink ears. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to take a marker, especially because my markers are right next to my desk, and I'm going to just color in that area, and then when it layers on top, it looks like he has pink ears. Or then for the eyes and the cheeks, which again, you would have to die cut that same die once through the other dye, the head dye once through black to get black eyes, and then again through pink. Or you could die cut it with white and color the eyes black and color them pink. And that's another way of saving time, but that one I like too. What I'm gonna do is a little bit different, but I think it's pretty equal to that. It's just if you can deal with the fussiness of cutting out little dies. And I struggle with that a little bit. Like I feel like I lose pieces, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Or I feel like I don't know, it's a personal thing. I don't prefer to deal with teeny tiny little like eyes and small details like that. Okay, so then what I'm gonna do instead is I'm going to take a piece of scrap white cardstock and some Scotch tape and tape it to the back. You could use like washi or do like an acid-free thing, but honestly, acid-free is probably not a very big deal in this situation. These are greeting cards. And then I'm going to trim around so that it covers those holes, but you can't see it around the die. Then I would take my marker and I would color the cheeks pink. I'm going to start with the pink color because it's the lighter color, so if I accidentally get into the eye area, I can color over it with the black. And so now I know, okay, my cheeks are covered and the eye has to go a little bit above the pink. It was definitely how much I wanted to demonstrate any one technique for this video because I wanted to try to make it as quick as possible. And then the black eyes would be, I have to do a little bit better of a job. But as you can see, that's the basic way that I could get that detail and save a little bit of time. In terms of eliminating colors, I just wanted to highlight a few more ways that I did it in case they weren't as obvious, and you could see if these examples help you. So since I didn't want to have to, I could already replace cutting the nose. We discussed that. Then I could also eliminate having to cut the scarf out of red, so then I simply cut it out of white and colored it with a marker instead, and I've reduced the red color completely. Or by coloring in the hooves and skipping the antlers, I have made the deer without having to cut anything out of gray. I will say the Spellbinders die does give you all of the hooves, because there's two options for the hand hooves, all in one die, so it is pretty fast to do. The antlers are also attached to each other, but it is one way of making the whole process faster. Tip number 5 is use the right tools. There are some tools out there that make die cutting or assembling die cuts easier. This is a Trinity Stamps pickup stick. It allows you to pick up something small, glue it down, and the glue will stick to it, and then you don't have to be fumbling with teeny tiny little pieces. It's relatively inexpensive for how much time and frustration it will save you. But also you want a glue that dries clear and matte. There are a couple of good glues out there. I've been really happy with the Barely Art craft glue, so I haven't replaced it, and I do have it in this container from Make It by Marco that lets it lean on its side so that when I'm ready to use it, all of the glue is sitting in the tip. She gifted this to me a number of years ago, but sometimes people ask about it, and I do think it's helpful when you're gluing a bunch of stuff that your glue is ready and you're not having to wait for it to fall to the bottom of the bottle every single time. And then finally, an electronic die cutting machine. So off to the side, I have my Gemini Junior, and that means that I can put my plates through with whatever I'm trying to die cut, and it will continue to roll it through and take care of it while I'm maybe popping out some dies or gluing some pieces together. My final bonus tip, it's not so much about how to making the die cut faster or easier, but just when, you know, getting to the card, to actually making the cards part. Because if you really want to, like, if you find something really cute like this, you spend a little bit more on a die. Although this one I think was original price like $15, so I would want to use it on a fair number of cards, since it's just the single image. Then you would consider making your card itself less complicated because you're putting all your time into your die cuts, or you're putting a significant amount of time into your die cuts. So on the packaging, actually, it shows you a very, very simple card. And even though it's simple, your recipient will get to enjoy the little dancing feature of the reindeer. And so that's kind of the key. And the other thing I would suggest is, other than like a very simple layout like that, is you could do something like use sketches I have a bunch of sketches at jesscrafts.com. They are free to download, and they actually show you how to use pattern paper without making scraps. So you could kind of, you know, have that dual purpose as a lazy crafter who doesn't want to sort scraps, because I do a lot of things because I'm a lazy crafter. And so it will tell you what to do. And then that way you can just kind of cut them and make a whole bunch without having to think about the layout, and instead focus on your die cutting. So this is a time where I had a little bit more of a complicated die, and I put it on a sketch. This sketch is not my simplest sketch, but even still, I'm not coming up with this design idea and doing all the work of die cutting. I'm eliminating some of the thinking that is involved. Remember to go grab the PDF if you want to have these tips printed out and add them to your die cut area of your craft room. If you found this video helpful, here's another video where you can find more ideas for enjoying your crafty time and supplies. Let me know you like this video with a share to your crafty community, subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next template or tutorial, and check the video description for product links. See you in the next video.